attorney turns into a fashion tech and sustainability entrepreneur. You get a passionate, intelligent woman schooling people on how textile production is damaging our water. Stephanie Benedetto is on a mission to solve the world's water crisis and turn pollution into profit. The textile market is over $1 trillion a year and growing, but 15% of each, and consequently the whole, ends up in waste each year. The Queen of Raw platform was created so businesses can now buy unused textiles from each other. This is moderated by Phil Derasmo, the CTO, co-founder, as well as investor in the Queen of Raw. Take it away, Stephanie and Phil.
Hey, Stephanie.
Hey, Phil, what's going on?
Hi, everyone. I'm Phil Derasmo, CTO and co-founder at Queen of Raw, and I'm here with Stephanie Benedetto, our CEO, my co-founder. So back in 2014, in a coffee shop on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, with a napkin drawing, we had this bold vision to build a more sustainable materials marketplace, one that could change the world and help recover that more than $120 billion in textiles that was being burned, buried, and wasted around the world. And in the past 18 months, with COVID and all these supply chain issues that we've been seeing, that excess materials loss has more than doubled, growing to more than $250 billion a year in losses. Stephanie, can you tell everyone a little more about what it's been like since we had that first meeting in Starbucks?
Absolutely. Thank you, Phil, and thank you to the Strategic Vision Conference for having us. Phil, I'm so glad we met at that Starbucks in 2014, and it's funny to see how much has changed and grown, but also how much at its core and its roots stayed the same from that napkin drawing at Starbucks. When we first started looking at this issue of textile waste, we knew it was really bad for people and for planet. But what we've soon learned was how bad it also was for a business's profit. Waste is expensive, it's inefficient. And why was nobody doing this? And so we started Queen of Raw, and what you'll see if you go to queenofraw.com is as a global marketplace. It's that platform so anyone out there, from a student, maker, crafter, or quilter, to the biggest brands and retailers in the world, could buy and sell their unused fabric, keep it out of landfill, and as you heard, right, turn what would be pollution into actual profit, and really aligning the people, the planet, but also the profit side. What I think has been so exciting about working with you, and as the business and the team has grown around the world, is what we're able to do for the biggest companies in the world. Because, a marketplace to sell waste is great, but how do you actually get to the root of the problem and understand why does a business have all this waste? And how do we intelligently minimize that waste going forward? Map, measure, trace it, right, and minimize it. And so obviously with our software and tools, really excited to be growing that and opening it up to the world's biggest Fortune 500 companies so that we can all do better together and solve the world's water crisis.
Awesome. Cool. So often folks go to college to work in a specific industry, and then we end up changing and following another passion. So for me, it was environmental engineering and corporate law. What was the allure and impetus of the startup world that attracted you? And even more importantly, why leave a corporate law practice behind for the unknown world of starting your own company?
Well, it's funny, when you take the leap, it can seem really scary at first, but then you can look back and think you can't imagine your life any other way. Prior to being on Wall Street as a corporate attorney, I actually come from a family background, and I know you do too, mine over 100 years in fashion and textiles. So I did grow up around this industry, right? And I was exposed to it. But I didn't do the family route. Obviously, as you heard, I went to Wall Street as a corporate attorney, but ended up specializing in fashion, technology, and sustainability. And I guess that means at the end of the day, right, we get back to our core and our roots and who we are and what we were born to do. And, then the market crashed in 08 and 09, and very similar to what is going on in the world today, I took that as my opportunity. Go out, build a business, and go change the world. And I did have a prior startup to Queen of Raw. We invented a new leather alternative. And it really hit a note in the market, right, in 2010, 2011, 2012, when innovation, sustainability, textiles, it was just starting to get talked about. But, I'd go around to all the world's biggest factories, mills, warehouses, and brands, and I'd see all this perfectly good stuff just sitting there in a warehouse, going to be burned or sent to landfill. And although I was really proud of the work we were doing with this amazing leather alternative, at the end of the day, we were still manufacturing something new. And why couldn't we do something with all this perfectly good stuff, right? And I think that vision, that visual of all that waste sitting in those warehouses is really what drove me to think that there was a supply-demand mismatch, and to know at our core that we needed technology to provide the bridge. And that's actually why I went following that experience to General Assembly in New York. For those who don't know, it's a great place for people deep in technology. And I knew I was looking for a strong technical co-founder, and went across all those job postings on the board. Phil, found yours, something about the way you spoke, the bold strategic vision that you had and the kind of company you wanted to work with really resonated with me. Then obviously we had that meeting at Starbucks and been working together ever since. So I think those are the kinds of learnings and experiences as an entrepreneur that we grow and get you where you're meant to be, to us here today.
Very cool. Thanks, Stephanie. And it definitely resonated with me as well, coming from an environmental engineering background, and then hearing about all this was just like, as you mentioned, I have family in the industry also, and hearing that, you were still seeing this problem of waste all around the, and not only was it local where I was exposed to it, but it was global and, and such a huge problem. In fact, where textile industry is one of the largest polluters in the world, second to oil and gas. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how everyone is, we're all part of this problem with textile pollution and some of the changes that we're seeing lately?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize where our clothes come from, even though it's something that's touching our body, our skin, our loved one's skin 24/7, right? And textiles truly touch everyone, everywhere in the world, every single day. It's our clothing, but it's also the material on your chair, the inside of your car, the carpet under your feet right now, right? And so to get a little bit into the statistics, although I don't like to harp too much, as you know, on the scary statistics, because I get excited talking about what we can do to solve those problems and change that. But to put it into perspective, as you mentioned, by some accounts, textile production is the #2 polluter in the world of clean water globally. Think of your favorite cotton t-shirt. One t-shirt takes an average 700 gallons of water to produce it and another 700 gallons of water to wash it in its lifetime. That's one shirt, and that's enough clean water for 2 people to drink around the world for 3 years. And if you think, over 2 billion shirts are sold around the world every single year. So, one statistic that I know we talk about a lot that really resonated with me is that according to the World Wildlife Fund, if we continue at the current pace of textile production, by 2025, 2/3 of the entire world's population will face shortages of fresh water and be exposed to hazardous chemicals from textile production alone. And I mention that because obviously, we know, we're not talking about 100 years from now. We're not talking about 50 years from now. We're literally talking about today. And we're talking about on our shores. And I know we use, when you and I are working together and mapping the metrics and the impact that we can have, we look at that 2025 year and what a difference. I mean, we've already saved well over 1 billion gallons of water. That's enough clean water for 1.4 million people to drink around the world for 3 years. And right, we're just getting started. So I mention that because I'm so proud of what you and I and the team have done, but also to encourage everybody out there. Never doubt that the small and large actions that you take can't have a massive impact around the world. And as we mentioned, as much as fashion and textiles very damaging, let's rethink business models, because it also means that fashion and textiles literally have the power to solve the world's water crisis when we rethink it. So we can do it, and we are doing it together.
Absolutely, definitely. Let's go back to your law experience just for a second. So, I mean, it comes in super handy over in our everyday business. Can you talk a little bit more about some of the ways and examples that it's been so helpful?
Oh, yes. Obviously, you save a lot of money in your legal bills, which by the hour in those 6-minute increments can get very expensive, especially early on in the life of a startup, right? But going to Wall Street, working with public and private companies, it was so valuable to understand the inner workings of a business, all the way from startup to growing, to hiring, to contract negotiation, raising dollars, and then eventually getting acquired or taking a company public. And, understanding and seeing what goes into each of those steps. And at the end of the day, how do you articulate what you're doing and also back it up with the data and the proof and get it in writing, right? Because as a lawyer, that's so important. Any negotiation, any conversation, get it in writing. And I think those are some of the principles that you and I've worked hard at together, starting very early on in the company, was writing down, what is our mission? What is our vision? What are our core values at a business, right? Immediately, you and I signed contracts together about what our business relationship would look like. And it made it so more meaningful and strong because of that. And now, obviously, as we continue to grow, raise funds and go global, and how do you negotiate partnerships and contracts and deal with financing globally, right? These are a lot of the issues that I really appreciate that legal background for giving me. And I know you also spent a lot of time on Wall Street and in fintech. So that's been so valuable to our business too, and how we handle these international legal compliance issues for our customers too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely learned so much just, being an entrepreneur and getting, in the trenches. Speaking of, we have a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience today. With all the uncertainty and opportunity at the same time going around nowadays, do you have any advice for anybody that's starting their own business in today's environment?
I think it's so easy to look at everything going on in the world. And obviously, we're here virtual, right? People are in their homes. Life has changed. People feel challenges. They're worried about health, their loved ones, right? And then, of course, there are the business challenges, issues around supply chains, getting your goods shipped to you from all over the world, right? All of this is having impact on our lives, personally and professionally. But you and I always say, how do you take those challenges and turn them into exactly what you said, massive opportunities? And some of the biggest and best companies in the world that have provided the most value to all of us were born out of recessions and depressions and times of uncertainty and challenges. And so, I think the idea, and kind of similar to when I was on Wall Street in the market crash in 08 and 09, and looking around the world and seeing kind of the height of waste and greed and excess, I took that as my opportunity to go out and execute on my vision and my dream, because we are at such a massive tipping point now. How can we build for the supply chain of the future? And you and I always talk about, what does this look like? Finding and building for the future we want. And especially when it comes to our business and supply chains, one that is more on demand, more digital, more local, and more sustainable. So I hope all entrepreneurs out there feel empowered that you can have a big, bold vision like solving the world's water crisis, and there's no time better than today to start.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's so much more than that two-sided marketplace, and the good it does and all. I mean, but we've been referred to as like the Airbnb of fabrics, or Alibaba done right for fabrics and textiles. They're taking the suppliers, matching them with buyers, and having that environmental benefit at the core of the purchase. But under the hood, what we're doing is really, super technical and like load of in-depth logistics to get it done. But can you talk a little more about the elegant visuals of what it means to keep that fabric out of the landfill and turning pollution into profit?
You're right. I think what we do and what a lot of entrepreneurs do is very technical and can be very complex. And, we can get into the weeds if people want to know about our full operating system and blockchain and machine learning and software and marketplace. But look, at the end of the day, what matters? And how do we articulate that vision clearly, strategically, boldly, and cleanly to the world so people get it? And, I know you and I talked about when we were looking at early on in the life of the business, what kind of a business model was really appropriate for this. And it was right at the time as Airbnb and Uber were starting to take off. And I know we looked at those models because if you think about it, what are they doing? Airbnb and Uber take underutilized resources, an apartment, a house, right? A car, and they use technology, marketplace, and software tools to put it back into the chain of supply and demand, make things more efficient, make it more economical, and it's a win-win-win for the buyers, the sellers, the community at large. And there are sustainable benefits to what they do as well. And of course, they're tracking it. And I know that to me was such an elegant way to think about what we were doing, this Airbnb and Uber of fabrics. How do you take this unused, what was considered dead stock, but is actually very much alive and perfect condition and first rate, put it back into the chain of supply and demand using technology. And then obviously, as you said, the Amazon and Alibaba, we always joke and talk about how we're building the Amazon and Alibaba done right, at our core with more transparency, quality, trust, curation, and sustainability. And let's partner with them as well, right, to go build great things and change the world.
Absolutely, definitely. So we've been going out there and changing the world, and such a great time right now where folks are, it's on the top of everyone's list, and we finally have their ears that they see, yeah, this is a huge problem. All the cracks in the foundations basically are showing in the supply chain about things that are breaking, that we're just on the verge of always breaking. And so we've had lots of support, and we've been also very fortunate to you've won quite a few pitching competitions. Let's talk about winning the WeWork Creator Awards. I remember when you went to Nashville for that contest, and I couldn't make it, so I was back home in New York watching it on my laptop. And you were pitching to the crowd of judges, including Ashton Kutcher and Florida Georgia Line and everyone, and it was super exciting to watch. And what was it like when Ashton announced that you won, and and hearing our company's name and your name being and the stage, suddenly being surrounded by all that confetti on the stage as we won. Can you tell us a little more about that?
We definitely won, and it was for us, I think, a real game-changing experience. Obviously, early on in the life of a company, right, you want to get out there, you want to share your bold vision and your mission, and get the world at large excited about what you're doing. And what was so exciting about the WeWork Creator Awards early on in the life of our company in 2018 was that, you normally have your pitch for investors, 30 minutes, 20-minute version, a 10-minute version, maybe even a 4-minute version. But for this competition, right, we had 60 seconds to get Ashton Kutcher and Florida Georgia Line to buy into our solution and understand the big vision and what we were trying to do. And it was one of the most valuable experiences I think you and I worked on together, getting that pitch down to 60 seconds and getting Ashton Kutcher to care, right? It's so meaningful to us. Of course, it's great to have celebrity attention. It is great to win money, right? And get the valuable feedback and customers and partnerships and press that come out of all of these competitions and awards. And I encourage any entrepreneur out there to really take advantage of them. They can be incredible, especially early on for your business. But I think what's funny is that 60-second pitch, right? You and I, as we're preparing for the next round of funding, so many of the core sentences and things that we talked about in the pitch, we're still using. And so you see what drives the business, right? As much as it grows and the technology grows and customers grow, a lot of that core vision has stayed. And I think that's really what's so powerful and so cool about doing that.
Awesome. Cool. Well, speaking of motivations and missions and strengths, what do you consider your source of strength, and what motivates you in life, in business, and in general?
I love this question. And I think every day about my children, right? Because that moment of having my first son, which I had Jacob right at the time as we were starting the company, the moment I had him, it's not about your life anymore, right? Suddenly it's about my children and my children's children, and what kind of a planet and a world that we are giving them. And I know you have a beautiful daughter too, right? And we want them to have clean water to drink, clothes that aren't toxic to wear, and a planet to live on. And we're not stopping till we do. And that, as much as we look at the metrics and the impact and the growth of our business, and that excites us, I think thinking about my children and how much better we are going to do because we are going to improve this people and planet for them. It's what drives us, right? And me every single day. And a funny little aside, I think I realized the power of children one day when I was pushing my stroller in the loud New York City streets. Jacob, my eldest, was 3 at the time. And I hear noise over the New York City streets coming out of the stroller. And I lean forward and I hear Jacob saying, "Are you naked right now?" "You're not, because you're using fabric. It's everywhere and it's polluting your water." He was doing our 60-second pitch. Awesome. And on the one hand, I knew that maybe I'd been practicing my pitch while pushing the stroller as a working mom a few too many times. But it also meant to me, and I know I told you this at the time, if my 3-year-old can get it, then anyone and everyone can get it. And we are going to change the world for them.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Stephanie, in a more serious note, you said if you could have a superpower, one superpower, it would be to heal people. Now, where did that come from?
This one is very deeply personal. As you know, my founder story actually starts 2 years before I was born. I had a brother named Stephen Jeremy, SJ for short. He was 13 years old and he was accidentally shot and killed. And it was obviously a very dark time for my family. I was born 2 years later. I looked just like him. I was named after him, and it kind of brought my family back to life. And I use that story because it was such a powerful impact on me and my family and why I do what I do. I realized from that, and we talk about it a lot in my family, life is short. Life is precious. We need to make every moment matter and go build great things that are going to heal each other and change the world. And it's truly why that would be my superpower and what I think we are actually executing on our superpower and doing together for the future.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much, Stephanie, for sharing that. Definitely, I agree. Absolutely. This is definitely, changing the world and doing something for the benefit both of, the environment and the future of our children. Absolutely. To wrap it all up, can you tell everybody where they can reach you, what's your social handle and how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, you and I, we're very open, because if we're not out there supporting each other, sharing great things and connecting with each other, then what are we doing? So I'm at Stephanie at queenofraw.com, and I give out my cell phone. As you know, it's 1-203-981-6993. And I do that intentionally, both to be open and out there and different, but also because I really mean it. I think we need to support each other. We need to reach out and connect, especially in this digital space more than ever. And that is why we're going to have a truly massive impact on this world. For any entrepreneurs out there, I hope if there's one takeaway from, what Phil and I have been talking about here, it's don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to get your idea out there, to have it be big, be bold, right? Solve the world's water crisis, cure cancer, whatever that may be. And to go start today building and executing on that vision. That's how you learn from your customers. You learn from the experience, right? We iterate, we grow, we build great things, and then we do go change the world. So go do it, everyone. And thank you so much, Phil. It has been so valuable having you as a partner. I can't imagine doing this with anyone else, you and the team, and so proud to be on this journey together and executing on our vision.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much. Same here, Stephanie. Thank you.